questionable. And we'll move over to Arsenal, to the Emirates Stadium. We'll first talk about the big move that was announced the other day. Kai Havertz, another Chelsea player, has moved to Arsenal for, it was 75 million pounds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even more money. Obviously, this I think was more of a move that people were questioning than Mount. Like, people were questioning the Havertz move more than they were questioning the Mount move. So we'll go straight back to it. Where does Havertz fit in this midfield? We'll obviously talk about Declan Rice and some of the other signings later, but specifically, where does Havertz fit, and not even their midfield, fit in this team? Because I've kind of gone back and forth to my team. Does he sit as kind of an 8? Does he maybe sit on the wing? You have Jesus. Where do we think he plays there?
I think I really questioned this move at first. I kind of get it. Because I think we've seen that at Leverkusen, at least, his best position was as a second striker, someone kind of playing off of attacker higher up. And I think if you see him maybe in the 8 role that we see with Arsenal, again, like I said, we were just talking about advanced 8s who are kind of like 10s. If we see him in that position where he's kind of a little bit off of Jesus, kind of where Granit Xhaka played last year, although obviously Xhaka isn't. I think even though Havertz has had down seasons at Chelsea, he's definitely. I think you can say he's a more dangerous attacker than Xhaka. If you see him definitely.
Because it's just weird because Xhaka is, by trade, Xhaka is a 6.
6'8", kind of.
I guess throughout majority of his career he's been a 6. So when I heard people say he'll slide it to where Xhaka played, I'm like, what? But then obviously you look at last season and he was definitely more. I mean, he had what?
Yeah, I think like
7, 8, or 4, 5 goals. He had a lot and some big goals.
And
I guess you had Partey who sat behind.
And if you see Havertz, he's someone who can in between the lines. He's someone who can play. He can kind of keep possession, retain possession well, which makes sense obviously for Arsenal. Someone who are kind of in that Pep mold of kind of wanting to control games through possession. They are. I think Havertz is someone who would be very dangerous, at least at his most dangerous in that position. And I think he's someone that we'll see, I think, can really provide that final ball for Arsenal like Xhaka did at Arsenal. And someone who could be a bit more dangerous at kind of exploiting the space that Jesus kind of can leave behind when he kind of drops a bit deeper. And I think it's it's a position where, again, Havertz really looked kind of lost at Chelsea. But if there's anywhere I think he could find his footing, at least in the Premier League, it's Arsenal. Yeah,
I agree, and I think this is what we're talking about. Chelsea are great at signing defenders. I think that's something they've been consistent at. Every other position, it just doesn't work. I think managerial-wise, obviously we've seen just manager after manager after manager. But I think if there's one person to do it, it's Arteta. I know Arteta specifically requested for them to go out and get Havertz, so I'm not going to doubt a manager like Arteta, who's one of the best in the world. But to me, it's weird because Odegaard obviously can play 8, can play 10. It's just weird in my head to see Havertz playing even behind him on the not the depth chart, on the graph, wherever you when you see the lineups. But I do agree. I think this is super similar to what we were just talking about, the Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount thing, where you have two again, I'm gonna say by trade like 10s, right? Like you wouldn't define Odegaard as an 8, I guess like an 8-10, but Odegaard's definitely an attacking midfielder.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I do think it's interesting, but you have sitting behind them Declan Rice. So, again, talking about Casemiro, if there's one player to do it, having Declan Rice behind you is scary for them.
And we haven't started necessarily talking about Rice yet, but Rice sort of factors into my Havertz fit here. So if we introduce Rice, Declan Rice sold for a record Arsenal transfer fee for an England player. $135 million.
Pounds.
Oh, dollars. It was 105 million pounds.
So 100, what is that, 100?
Around 135.
No,
140 million.
In dollars, how much?
Dollars.
It's 104. Oh, so
it's
how much
around
is it in
130.
pounds?
105.
Oh, 105. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Where I don't like the fit for Havertz as much, and it's weird. A lot of people see Declan Rice as this ball-winning 6, and that's what Declan Rice has played, and that's what it's been. When I've watched Declan Rice, the position I've liked Declan Rice as the most is as an 8. I've enjoyed watching Declan Rice when he's playing in the Granit Xhaka role.
Yeah.
When he's playing, he does it for England sometimes. He did it at the World Cup, where he had a guy like, I don't know, Calvin Phillips. When he was at the Euros 3 years ago, Calvin Phillips was sitting behind him. And Declan Rice, in my opinion, does his best work as an 8 when he can still have the work rate to get back and put a tackle in defensively, because he's a great defensive player. I think that Havertz does not fit into this team because if you're Arsenal, you're trying to change as little as possible from last season.
Yeah.
They had a fantastic season.
Tweaks.
You're trying to make minor changes that will just elevate enough to win the trophy. It's tough when Thomas Partey is likely to leave. Granit Xhaka has already left. 2 of your 3 midfielders have left, and that's a really hard thing to replicate. I think Declan Rice is perfect. Declan Rice is an amazing signing. I don't think we've talked about it yet, but Declan Rice is just fantastic. He's going to do wonders at Arsenal. I want him at Chelsea for the longest time.
I think it was so crucial that they got him.
it
Especially with
was
the City
crucial.
offers. I was like, ugh.
But Declan Rice, I would have loved to see him in a more advanced role than if he's going to sit as a 6 behind Havertz and Odegaard. Because if Havertz and Odegaard are in this team, Declan Rice is not going to have the freedom to move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's not.
And I think, and I agree, and I think I've talked to you guys about this. I love 6s that are obviously ball carriers, and Declan Rice is one of the best ball carrier 6s. And even personally, like when I play on the field, I love 6s that are able to take that space. So I think it does restrict him a little because Odegaard, like you had Partey, who if he want to take it up, Xhaka can drop into that 6 role, but now you have Odegaard, who at the best can drop into be an 8 and not really a defensive 8. So that to me is I agree with, but I think, I mean, obviously fantastic signing. You know, like it's I know we love to see him in a different role, but I think having a guy like that, it's the midfield to me is right now, besides maybe City, the best in the league.
I think I'm just seeing in terms of Havertz fit now. I'm seeing Havertz on the bench for this team.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Havertz as your 70th minute substitute when you need a goal or when you want to rest Jesus or Saka or Martinelli, because I'm seeing potentially we see Kieran Tierney start at left back, and then we see Zinchenko move into the 6 role.
Yeah, which is possible.
Which lets Declan Rice play this Granit Xhaka role. I think if we see Zinchenko move into the Thomas Partey role, which I think he plays really, really well, that would be the role he'd be playing at City. Zinchenko is a great central midfielder. He does it for Ukraine. He's done it at times for Arsenal.
Did it for City.
I think we're going to see him move into the Trent role that Liverpool have started to adapt.
Here's what I think. I agree with you that I think obviously Declan Rice is going to have to be a bit more passive. That obviously with Havertz and Odegaard both being the advanced 8s. But I still think he's going to have the chance to carry the ball because you're talking about Zinchenko in the midfield. Even though he's listed as a left back, again, we keep on talking about the 3-back system. He's basically in possession. He's a midfielder. He's in the pivot with Rice. And I think in that position, especially with the 3-back of Gabriel Saliba and either White or Timber, you're going to another player who they're basically on the verge of signing.
Yeah.
With that, I think you're going to have with Zinchenko in the midfield, Rice is going to have a bit of license to really go forward himself. And he's also, again, I agree with you, Kean. He is definitely one of the best, if not the best, ball-carrying 6 in the world. But he's also one of the best controllers of the game with his passing. He's one of the best, obviously, ball-winning 6s. I think he's really the complete package when you look for overall with the best 6s in the game. And I think him just – no matter what position he plays, he's going to be elite for Arsenal. It's a monumental signing, and you understand. Even though I know 105 million pounds, a lot of money, it makes sense.
I think it's worth every penny. I would pay that. Again, I'm a Liverpool fan. I would pay that in a split second for him. I think and especially for Arsenal, like the fit is undoubtedly so good in that team. And I think, like you were saying, when you're looking for that, and like Arsenal. Obviously, they had that poor, tie at the end of the season, which ended up losing them the title. But they had it. Like, they could have won the title. Like, it wasn't like...
It was the biggest choke in Premier League history.
Yeah, it was, but I know it was. And it's not that I say you can't pinpoint what the problem was, but I feel like when you look at the personnel they had last year, like, that was a title-winning team. Obviously, just whatever happened.
Saliba going down killed them.
Oh, yeah, right.
Going
so that, okay, pinpoint there.
To Rob Holding.
Or Kiri, yeah, right. Exactly. That's a big one. But I think, like you said, when you're looking for that, and it's funny to say Declan Rice is that minor tweak, I think that they have. I would argue they're title favorites. It'll always be City, but
especially after 3 years in a row.
But I mean,
they look so good.
This Arsenal team is right behind them, right behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter where Rice plays in this midfield, he's going to fit in, and he's going to be one of the best midfielders in the world for years to come. I really struggle to see Havertz in the Granit Xhaka role.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think the one thing, if I could pinpoint one attribute that you need to play in the Granit Xhaka role, it's work rate. And Kai Havertz has one of the lowest work rates I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Kai Havertz playing as a striker for Chelsea, I wouldn't be surprised if he only covered about 2 or 3 miles a game. He does not run until the ball is at his feet. And even then, he just loses it half the time. I don't see Kai Havertz playing in the midfield for a title contending side.
Yeah.
I can see it. I think attacking wise, it's a really great fit for Arsenal if they can kind of. Again, he was playing in a lot of different positions. He was playing as a striker, which I think was probably one of his worst roles. Like he's not a.
He did it at Leverkusen.
He did, but he was more kind of again, like I said, a bit behind another striker. And I think him kind of having to operate as the main, as kind of someone who feeds off scraps, someone who's really a great in that Holland role. He's not a good fit there.
No.
I think someone who, again, it doesn't look good him as an advanced 8, but if you consider that if he's going to be playing really high up as kind of even higher than Odegaard, I think I could see it being a success. But I do agree, work rate will be a concern. And I think that's where definitely you're going to have to really see Odegaard take a big step in terms of his defensive abilities. And obviously Rice, that's where it's a huge sign.
Yeah, it's a big burden. And it's not only that, but obviously we know what Havertz is good at, highlighted by the Champions League final, making runs in behind. Mm-hmm. Is definitely what he's good at. I think at times he's a good finisher.
Finding space.
Finding space. Yeah, to him, what he's good at is
finding space and making his half turns in little half spaces.
If you're replacing Xhaka, you can't be good at finding space. You wouldn't define the Xhaka role in that. Obviously, like you said, you need to be a high work rate player.